All right, everybody, we have the development of the male and female reproductive system. I'm not going to get into the aging of it. It's within there. If you want to read it, by all means, please go ahead. When it comes to the development of the male or female reproductive system, we're not going to go over every single slide. There's 3 or 4 slides at the very end that I don't really want you to worry about knowing. We're just looking at some of the kind of first handful of slides here. So what is male? What is female? We have a genotypic listing of a male or female, and we have a phenotypic listing of what is male or female. When it comes to genotypic sex of a male or female, it's what are the genes? What are the chromosomes? I guess I should say. XX is female and XY is male. So that's what the genes say, the chromosomes, okay? The X and the Y chromosomes. There are a number of genes on them that are going to code for certain different things. And it's, spoiler, it's all based on the Y chromosome. Phenotypic sex is what we see, the appearance. So, ovaries, testes, the penis, the breast, the vagina, that's what we think about typically as what we are seeing. All of this really in earnest starts to happen depending on the book, but around the 5th to 6th week, 5th to 7th week, I think. Around the 5th week, it can kind of start, but around the 6th week, you start seeing stuff. And by the 7th week, the ball is rolling for male development to occur. So, first off, what is sex? Genes, chromosomes, X's, XY for male. Okay. If there was 3 X's, it would still be a female. If it was 2 X's and 1 Y, it'd still be a male. As long as the presence of that Y chromosome is there, it's going to be a guy. What's on the Y chromosome that makes it so special? That would be TDF. This is our sex determining region, or our testes determining factor. This is what's going to determine the development of those proto reproductive structures to be either come male or female. So if the Y chromosome is present by around week 5, week 6, testes determining factor region will start to become expressed. Okay. What does that mean? When you express something, that means you interpret the gene and you make the protein. That's what expression is. So in terms of expressed, what's being expressed? Well, proteins that stimulate androgens development from a few different cells that we've seen earlier in the day. These androgens are what ultimately cause the development of phenotypic male, the male duct system, okay? Ultimately forming the penis, epididymis, vas deferens, all that fun stuff that we talked about earlier. If there is no Y chromosome present, none of this gets made. Okay, it'll become the female reproductive parts. All right, but all of it's based on the sex determining region, the SRY gene found on the Y chromosome, which codes for testes determining factor. What are these? Here are these kind of proto reproductive pieces over here in from weeks 5 to 6. Okay, before TDF starts becoming expressed. They are called mesonephric ducts. And for me, I use the M of meso and M of male. Okay. And if mesonephric is male, the other one has to be female. Paramesonephric ducts form the female reproductive system or female ductual system. Ovaries, oviducts, uterus, all that fun stuff. Okay. Mesonephric ducts, male, epididymis, there it is, vas deferens, okay, ejaculatory ducts, ultimately giving rise to the penis. Paramesonephric ducts, uterus, superior part of the vagina, uterine tube. Para means around. I hope you remember. Mesonephric, nephro means the urinary kidneys. But in this case, nephric refers to the developing urinary bladder. So mesonephric duct is actually connected to the urinary bladder. Paramesonephric ducts, these are going to be ducts, the ductual system that's around the urinary bladder. So that's the difference between them, really. When we look at, if we have the SRY protein, if we have that testes determining factor present on that Y chromosome, we get development of phenotypic man. With that, we have the development of the mesonephric ducts and a degeneration of the paramesonephric. Okay, can't forget that part. If we keep both of them, if they have both pieces, then there's parts and pieces that don't get developed. Okay, it could be genotypic male, and there could be some phenotypic female characteristics, and that's because of failure of certain things to descend at the proper time. The what ultimately become the ovary or the testes, they failed to descend, or there was an insufficient amount of androgens being secreted by the embryo, whatever the case may be. But normal fashion, guys, if that SRY, or if that sex determining factor, the testes determining factor on the Y chromosome is present, we're going to get a development of the mesonephric ducts. Androgens get secreted, cause the testes to start to give rise to testes, and start to turn the ducts associated with the male reproductive system. As that's occurring, I can't maintain the other duct system. They start to degenerate. Well, why? There's no estrogens being secreted, okay? There's more testosterone being secreted, more androgens being secreted. So it causes their development and ultimately causes the degeneration of the female reproductive duct system. And that's what this was trying to say. No SRY proteins produced, XX female, we get the development of the paramesonephric and the degeneration of the mesonephric ducts. So, and this starts around week 8 for a female. Week 7 is when it kind of starts for a guy. There is some difference there in terms of that. For a male, it has to be kickstarted right away. So by about week 7, that SRY gene, that sex determining region, really starts manifesting in what it does. It forms a couple set of cells, and we saw these cells earlier, sustenacular cells or cystinocytes and interstitial cells. They are involved with sperm maturation and development. Well, they're involved in androgen secretion. Anti-Mullerian hormone is actually secreted by these sustenacular cells, which leads to the degeneration of the paramesonephric ducts. That's ultimately what's going on inside of a boy. XY male. So that's what's causing the degeneration of the paramesonephric, the duct system of the female. Over the next 4 weeks, the male duct system starts to take shape. And then over the course of the development there are a number of things that are going to occur. One, the testes will start to descend down into the scrotum. And then about the 9th month, they're right there, either knocking on the door to enter the scrotal sac, or they're starting to descend down the scrotal sac. There's also other number of things that are going on. The development of the external genitalia is going to be occurring there, with the formation of the scrotum, with the formation of the penis. There's also some things going on in the brain as well, that androgens will cause the brain to start forming in a slightly different way. That's some of the difference between a boy and a girl in that regard. There is an effect that androgens have on brain development as well. In terms of what I'm going to ask for the exam, that's where I'm going to stop. Okay. I'm not going to ask about external genitalia. There's just a lot of moving parts, and honestly, we have plenty enough to do on this exam. So everything from here on out here. I'm not going to ask you what the urogenital folds will become, the laboscrotal swelling. Obviously, you can figure out what that one comes and becomes. The genital tubercle and what it begins to develop. You can read it over here. If you're curious, you can read more about it, but I am not going to test on the external genitalia's development. Just what's genotypic sex, what is referred to as phenotypic sex, what gets secreted around week 6, TDF. What does that mean? That's what it means. What does it cause? Female or male parts to be formed. For female, it's kind of a slow process over the course of the next week 8 through week 20. For males, there's a burst of activity right out the gate, and then it's just a very slow development as the testes slowly descend through the abdomen into the scrotal sac. And that's all I'm going to ask on that.